Strange Mysteries Number 2, published by Superior Comics in November of 1951. Plus, Swamp Monsters, classic monsters of the pre-code horror comics from YOE Books. Greetings, friends. I thought I'd begin this video on Strange Mysteries Number 2 by showing you Swamp Monsters from YOE Books, the classic monsters of pre-code horror comics. Now, I had this particular book for a little while, and I always loved this particular image. This is the cover to Strange Mysteries Number 2. So I finally found a copy in good shape that I could afford, and I'm going to be showing that to you soon. But the cover and the story, which is called Swamp Terror, I always loved it. I love Strange Mysteries. I love Superior Comics from Canada. They also published Journey into Fear and Mysteries Weird and Strange, for example. And they used a ton of IGER Shop artists. This image, I am 99% sure, was done by the artist Robert Webb, as well as the interior story was drawn by Robert Webb. You'll see in credits, if you go to comics.org, you'll see either question marks or IGER Shop. It is true that Robert Webb was part of the IGER Shop, along with artists like Matt Baker, Jay Disbrow, and others. Robert Webb was one of those guys that belted out a ton of stories for Superior Comics. He's got an unmistakable style, and I'll show you a couple of things, similarities, that make me believe that this cover was done by Robert Webb and that he also did the interior art. But just a quick look at Swamp Monsters by Steve Baines and Craig Yo. Love that. You have an introduction by Stephen Bissett. Of course, his Swamp Monster right there on top. Creatures of the Swamp, what music they make. Rather lengthy article from Bissett with some really cool illustrations by Bissett. And there is a variety of stories in here, of course, all related to swamp monsters, including Basil Wolverton's classic Swamp Monster from Weird Mysteries Number 5, June of 1953, published by the famous or infamous Stanley Morse. So that's just a little look at Swamp Monsters. And now let's get to the actual comic book, Strange Mysteries Number 2. And here we are, folks, Strange Mysteries Number 2 from November of 1951, published by Superior Comics. Look at that cover. The colors, everything about this is just phenomenal. It is one of my favorite covers from the Superior Comics line. Now, it did have a couple of issues with it, but not really that extreme. There's a few tears down here, a couple of spine issues, but overall a pretty solid copy. There's a little writing. So this comic book leads off with Swamp Terror, and as you can see, the artist, and I believe it's also Robert Webb. This is definitely Robert Webb. A couple of trademark things about Webb. His faces, his female faces, they just have that look. One thing that Robert Webb always loved to do with his panels is he would add circular panels like this, or semicircular panels. It's really cool. You can see a little bit of an example here with this circular panel, is he would have objects coming out of the panel and dangling into other panels, like this woman's legs are coming down into another panel. There's a much better example of this. Here's even a better example of it. Coming out of a rectangular panel, he would always have objects going into other panels. A lot of legs, folks. He loved the ladies in the legs. Swamp Terror. This is the tale of a horror that brooded and waited beneath a slimy, gurgling acre of swampland, and of a dead man who fulfilled and carefully planned a plot to murder his entire family for a very surprising reason. This is my favorite story in the book, and it is what I would call a classic weird tale. This is like something you would probably even find in Weird Tales, pulp magazine. As a story, you've got a rich guy, he dies, and they're at the reading of the will. He says, "You've all heard Jeff Jenkins' will before. His fortune is left to you two, Cora and Ned, as his only remaining niece and nephew." She's like, "Yeah, that's easy to take." And then the old woman, "And nothing for me again. But we were so close in life. I don't think any man meant more to his sister than Jeff meant to me." You got the conniving couple there, and they're going to get their comeuppance. Let's put it that way, folks. There's some more legs dangling, this time from a rectangle into the circle. And the next tale is called Chamber of Doom. Once again, Robert Webb. They had him doing a lot. I think occasionally he would be the sole interior artist doing pencils. Of course, they had inkers and other people, but Robert Webb did a ton of pencils for IGER Shop and, of course, for Superior Comics. But his trademark circular panels and the layouts, his faces, that is just classic Webb. Midway through, we have a 2-page story, text story, called Ghost Bait by Kermit Wells. This is another good story in this particular book, The Haunted Hand. I love it. And once again, it's Robert Webb. You just tell, look at the faces. You go back, you have your circular panels. Severed hand in action. Oh yes. Our final story, Planet Without Death. Now, you notice some tape. I put this archival mending tape, tissue, on these pages because there were some bad tears. You know, what can you do? There was a tear here and down here on her face. I don't mess around. It's like, if you don't back it up, it's going to get worse, folks. Any tears, you've got to address them. You can see a piece of tape here. There's a tear on the edge. It kind of looks like Ms. Green Giant. Once again, Robert Webb, folks. And when I say Robert Webb, I'm saying specifically the pencils. I have no idea who inked this. IGER Shop, of course, was kind of like a factory. They would have some artists do the pencils, inks, even artists that would, for example, do the figures, and then another artist might do the backgrounds. And on the back inside cover, the inside story of professional wrestling. Learn the truth, folks. A complete who's who and what's what of wrestling. What is the inside story of the feud between Mr. America Gene Stanley and Nature Boy Buddy Rogers? Whipper Billy Watson is here seen tossing the Masked Terror in a recent Toronto bout. And there's a female wrestler here that actually has some muscles going on there. Please send me my copy of Wrestling Scene for $1 per copy. And here we have the back cover, of course, with another ad for a 6 tools in 1 set for $1.25. The colors are fantastic. I think the art is great. I love the story, Swamp Terror, and The Haunted Hand in particular. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please like and subscribe. Thank you.